We are going to have a conversation about a very unusual character today. Nobel Prize winner, physicist, professor, man that drew nude pictures. Yep, you will hear it correctly. Nude pictures. Taught himself Brazilian dance in Brazil and dancing straight to Brazil himself. Very hilarious character, super funny. His mind is just golden. His perspective of the world is so much fun. Just entire time you're laughing, and so many funny stories in this book. And at the same time, you think that it's some sort of a book that makes you laugh, but it's true. And at the same time, it teaches you so many things. It gives you deep knowledge. And I'm going to share this with you right now. I'm going to, for sure, share these funny stories with you as well. Now, puzzle drive. The Feynman is puzzle drive character. To him, it's not a problem, but it's a puzzle. And he searches ways to find solution and fix this puzzle to overcome it. And to him, the reward is this joy he feels while he's searching for the puzzle, and what he feels when he fixes this puzzle. This is how his mind works. Now, at some point, he worked in this hotel with his aunt. I believe it was his aunt, don't remember exactly what kind of relative of his it was, but it was relative, basically, very close. And most likely it was aunt. I'm going to check right now, doesn't matter. And funny thing is this. This is what he says about her. The world is full of this kind of dumb smart ally who does not understand anything. But you cannot say that to anyone who is smart, who runs a hotel. Such a irony in this quote, especially in the last part. But you cannot say that to anybody who's smart, who runs a hotel. Such an irony in this thing. And what the background story of this is that he wanted to, invent these certain things that would make certain processes much more faster in hotel. But every time he would try to fix, invent something which would make things run faster in hotel, he would face this resistance, and his aunt would jump around and be like, "Don't do it, Feynman, what are you doing?" And would just notice a good part and just would solve everything and would see everything in bed. And that's what. And he says that if I had a bodyguard, I would be able to invent things there because he would get interviewed by her. And this is where he says that I learned that innovation is a very difficult thing in the real world. And why is that? And I've also started to think about why about this quote, and I was like, why is innovation such a difficult thing in the real world? Because people are just on this loop, right? They just is everyday reality. They just want, first of all, they just want these things to just continue the way it is. They fear changes. Now Maurice, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly, but this name I paid attention to because when he was in MIT or somewhere, basically there was this tradition. They were left in some unknown place and they had to find a way toward the city. And the point is that this Maurice guy, he was laughing and he seemed he didn't care while others were not discussing how to find a way. And he was laughing casually, etc. And you would think about this man, and he thought about this man that he wasn't even paying attention, but he made one remarkable comment. And he was like, hey, pay attention to where, these things go, wires go. Because where wires go, they're supposed to be a city, right? Where most wires are, in that way it will be a city. And it's a very interesting thing, because, sometimes it may seem that this person don't pays attention to it, but don't assume it. You don't have enough information. Just based on what you see, don't assume it just because someone is laughing. You see this kind of characters, by the way, in movies and stuff. Right, characters that seem like your average person, but turn out to be some sort of a crazy dude. For example, John Wick. Anyone that's seen the first part of that movie, right? You see the dude, and completely normal at the first part, right, for beginning, but it's a John damn weak. Just like that smart guy seemed like the dude that wasn't so much smart and didn't care and didn't knew anything, so I was just laughing and cracking on dumb jokes. But at the same time, this guy found the solution while everybody else was panicking. Now, Feynman at some point steals a door. And you will be like, and I was like, for God's, for whatever's sake, why would you do that? But he would just did it for experimental purposes. And, of course, now serious research started in university who stole this door. And everybody's gathered in certain place. And, so for finally, people are like, well, upon your honor, like justify that you haven't taken the door. And everybody stands up and says, with my honor, I haven't taken the door, blah, blah, blah. And everybody says the same thing except Feynman, because he would not just fake it, right, upon his honor. So he said the truth. He said, I took the door. But guess what happened? Nobody believed him. Nobody was like, you joker, shut up. There is no way you're lying, Feynman. This is not time. You're cracking. This is not time for you to crack this type of jokes. But the trust is that he is the culprit. He said actual trust, but nobody believed him. How intriguing this whole experience is. He said the trust, but nobody believed him. Because the way he said, because the reputation he already had. Now, learn what the rest of the world is like. The variety is worthwhile. And here's, for example, what happened to him. Basically, this hypnosis expert were to come to university. And now Feynman is super interested and intrigued in these experiments, right? And he wants to take part in it. And guess what happens? When, everybody's gathered and whoever is in charge declared that, yes, this hypnosis expert will come, and he's like, he'll jump up. He knew day before that he would come, basically, this hypnosis expert. And he will just jump and start scream on top of his lung that I want to be and in his mind he thinks that I have to be quick so others won't get me. Others won't get in front of me, basically. He really genuinely expected that people will be like, everybody would be like him. That's why he says, like, variety is worthwhile. Like, be aware of this. Not everybody is like you, dude. In fact, nobody is. And middle is 99%. Nobody starts handling this. I was really jumped out like crazy and screaming and shouting to, I want to be hypnotized by an expert. I don't know what will happen to me and blah, blah. No. And the guy remarked that, Feynman, we know that you want to go. You all know that you are a weirdo. But we were just asking others. And it turns out that he later got hypnotized by that expert and basically was taught to go circle and sit down later. After that, and basically walk on a long way and sit down later. And he was like, no, this is BS. I will do it. Straight, but he could not. He felt like some sort of a guilty emotion. And here's what he says, I'm quoting. All the time you are saying to yourself, I could do that, but I won't, which is just another way of saying that you cannot. So basically, he could not just straight because he felt some sort of a guilt from deep down. Here's this quote. I always do that, get into something and see how far I can go. This specifically refers to biology, but not only biology, but everything he did. Drawing nude pictures. Physicist. Playing some sort of instrument as well. But you don't expect like a Nobel Prize winner priest that's like, this naked drawing. You don't just expect it. It's also very funny. You're a physicist, what are you doing? Well, I'm drawing it. And he also talks about how he picks up females and how he's fun. It's after many years after his wife passed away. He's a very curious character. And he does very interesting. Bloodhound, for example, is one of the experiments he started to. He found this experimental idea about when he was waiting his wife in hospital, and he just picked the book and started to do these experiments. Would go down on his knees and crawl and sniff everything like his dog, and would do experiment. This is curious chapter. He was very curious, and let me tell you, guess what? I also tried certain experiment with this bloodhound, and I failed twice. But I'm not this much interested in my nose capabilities in this experiment. But I tried it, and it's quite interesting. I'm quite sure if I tried more times, I would guess it. But the person that told me had to go, and it was super funny. But I had a lot of fun doing this experiment. Yeah, he says great compliment about the US Army, by the way. That's, end quote, that's what they are very good at, making decisions. And the thing he refers to here is that basically there was this certain thing to explain civilian workers about nuclear weapon. But they supposedly knew about this thing, but there was certain mistakes going on which may result potentially in entire blow up. Everything would blow up essentially. It was super dangerous, and he had to explain to these workers what's going to happen if guys fell, and he went to chief whoever is in command. And the men, whoever these military men was, took decision in 5 minutes. This serious decision about nuclear weapon to just tell workers as well about it. They supposedly knew about it was the rule. And this is crazy thing he picked up soon after his wife passed away. You don't have to be responsible for the world that you are in, and after the Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You don't have to be responsible for the world that you are in. I don't know, most likely it's from that. He don't. He avoids conversation. He almost mentioned nothing about his wife's death, and I just felt that. I'm sorry. He mentioned a couple times. For example, there is in military. For example, he wanted to go in Germany after the war, after World War II, basically when Germany was occupied by Allied forces. He wanted to go to Germany to serve there, but he got rejected because basically, well, he was nuts. This what psychiatrists did just said, because he was very upset when he went there. And he don't even trust this psychiatrist. I guess to him it's kind of like a pseudoscience. Or that's how he kind of looked at it. And basically, he said a lot of things he would not otherwise say. And everybody thought he was nuts. His parents were worried about him. His father was really worried. His sister, his mother as well. And it's also, but it's somehow the way he tells this story, you are laughing so badly. Everything is so the way there's this saying, right? It doesn't matter what happens to you. It just what makes and all difference is the way you look at it. And the way, and this is the most important one, the most important thing about Feynman. The way he looks at things, I'm telling you, cannot stop laughing. I'm genuinely laughing while reading the book. And you're not just laughing, you're laughing hysterical. It's so funny. It's much more funny than modern, comedians. So it's perspective. For example, once he went in, basically he had in his fingerprint the entire secrets of atomic bomb because he cracked the code of the safe, because he learned how to crack the code. He also got interested in that. He got interested in many things, not only nude drawing, etc. When you're away and you got nothing but paper and you are feeling lonely, you remember all good things and you cannot remember the reasons you had the arguments. Here he refers to his second marriage. Basically, it was mistaken and stuff. But in today's day, you can put in instead of paper anything like obviously your laptop, your mobile phone, right? Your connection to the general life. When you are away and you've got nothing but mobile with Wi-Fi etc. connection, and you are feeling lonely, you remember all the good things, and you can remember the reasons you had arguments. And generally, I think it's kind of fair to say about other things as well, right? Kind of certain situations after a long time you may just remember only good things, and it's not happens only about only this case. You just about certain people just happen to forget the things you had arguments or things you disliked and you just remember all the good things. So you put unnecessary pressure on yourself and you become delusional because you don't see both things already. You see just one thing. You ignore the second one, the one that's much more important because that's the thing that made you have the distance with that people. That's the part that which you started to ignore. I started out by defining science as an understanding of the behavior of nature. Yeah, you start and basically ignore the first thing. Definition of science as an understanding of defining science as an understanding of behavior of nature. Very interesting definition. Now here's what it says about asking girls to pose nude for him. I guess there was so much in the back of my mind that I thought it was somehow wrong to ask to nude for him. But he finally made his courage. Basically, he had this problem in his mind. And he never asked them. I mostly would just draw their face when he wanted to just draw their nude. Naked, basically. And it's a very important thing, by the way. I guess there was so much in the back of my mind that I thought it was somehow wrong to ask. I mean, just ask. It's not like... But he could not. Because in his mind, there was like something wrong with it. It is not the stuff, but the power to make the stuff that is important. Insanely important. It is not the stuff, but the power to make the stuff that is important. If all the smart people were to die now, who would dare appear? Who would keep creating, right? That's what drives the improvement. That's a very key point of a nation's power. It's not the stuff, but the power to make the stuff that is important. I believe it's a key of nation's power. Importance of talking simply, not like professors that are with big words. Talk everyone with their own language, in their own language. Let's try to don't be this type of don't use these difficult words. Use simple definitions and you won't be ever misunderstood when you do it. And if you still be, but most likely won't be, and you will, people much more appreciate you. Like talk everyone on their own language. Like he refers to her when he was attending certain thing about basically a bunch of different fields of professors were gathered there, and everybody else was just talking in difficult language, and he was the only one that was talking in simple language. And was not using some difficult words. Because you can just sit down think and you can say the same thing with simply. Another power, for example, of great leaders, that their speech connected to people. Why Lincoln gained so much popularity? Because he got connected to people. His speeches, it was close to people. People could understand him. It wasn't something like difficult or whatever. Basically, he could come up with a speech that would enable the audience to understand him. He wasn't just talking about he was really well read and educated at that point. He could have simply wrote something, no, but not that, but he talked crowd the way, communicated them on their own language. Any ordinary fool is not a faker. An honest fool is alright, but a dishonest fool is terrible. And what is dishonest fool? Person who, people who are too fools and are covering it all over and impressing people. Now, this type of people basically don't like to just say, I don't know. They just, oh, they pretend they know and they're trying to impress you, blah, blah, blah. Why, like, and you get angry, by the way, after talking to this type of people. I met this type of people. And you feel like you will forever stay ignorant because you don't know anything. You don't know the subject you are speaking, and but at the same time you're pretending. You're egoistic. You're pretending to know. So you will always stay ignorant. So there is nothing wrong, and this is what my personal quote. I would rather be a fool for a minute and ask a question rather than not ask and stay fool forever. Now, Jews' respect for education. This is a very interesting part I paid attention to. Basically, a certain Jewish man invited Feynman to his house, and his mother just got back from Washington, D.C., and her mother said something astonishing to him. Oh, and basically, let's read this quote. No, this mother just came back home and it's like, he exclaims, oh, my day is complete. Today I met a general and a professor. She put general and professor at last same level, at minimum, at same level, because the way it is said, it kind of seems to me that she slightly put professor above. Who does that? Like, Jewish words are not enough in this case, just club. The Jews pass on this tradition in their families all the time, so that if a boy is a good student, it is as good as if not better than being a good football player. What a powerful teaching. The Jews pass on this tradition in their families all the time, so that if a boy is a good student, it is as good as if not better than being a good football player. Amazing Jewish. What can I say? Like, I'm just clap about this thing. I'm like astonished by this culture. This is part of culture all day. And I can't help but admire this thing in me. At the same time, like, this is amazing. So much different, like polar opposite of, not polar, but like completely, like very advanced place I am and culture I'm from. Culture I grew up in. He of course criticizes the education, what happens in Brazil, for example. What's wrong with Brazilian education, what's wrong with the education in state. And this is everything I've analyzed, and I was like, I always knew that, country I grew up, post-Soviet country, Georgia, education fairly sucked. But after reading this and thinking through 13 things even more, because he gives serious insight in this thing, I understood that the education system basically I went through and people are going through here is 100 times worse than a cancer. Like, essentially it's like something even more deadlier than cancer, like way deadlier than cancer. Something that sucks you dry with your soul and spirit and everything. And I was like, no wonder I hate. I like seriously hate this education system deeply. I went through I hate it so badly, and I kinda of course knew this point. It's just like first noticed it's so obvious that anyone that has a mind and can think through things can just see this thing like this. It's obvious in front of you. You are going through this. But after reading this and pay attention to this, oh man, every single problem I can quadruple, like even more here. I place I grew up and went through, did education. Great thing that I didn't study this education because I knew it was bullshit, even when I was studying it in school. So I did my bare minimum. This is good, by the way. This is good because if I were the type of people that studied super hard, like holy. Because I mean, like I remember, for example, this, I hope you don't bore this personal sharing, but I just wanted to like this part stayed in my mind. I was probably in 7th grade or something, and I was telling teacher about this biology thing I've learned, and I've just, instead of like repeating the words that was in the book, seriously, this is the moment I took my hands off and I understood that I have to suffer a good metal. But it was later, at the age of 17, that I understood that I had to self-get myself. I just ignored this thing and just played games and stuff. Basically, I said the same things that were in the book in a different way. But I essentially said the same thing and I made assumptions based on the knowledge provided in this biology book. And guess what the teacher told me? She shouted at him and screamed at me and told me that just repeat exactly the way it is in the book and stop thinking for yourself and using your own thoughts. And I am not even kidding. This is exactly what she said. And I remember as well my classmate as well protesting this thing and what kind of nonsense it is, and I had this face like, oh, what? I remember this thing. It's something you just remember. I remember it clearly. And I will end this with this. The first principle is that, I completely forgot. I remember. Feynman met this Japanese ambassador, basically when he was ranting about how bullshit this certain pseudoscience and whether they didn't knew what they were learning. They had no understanding. Basically, they're learning and they are just memorizing these things basically they don't understand what they memorize. They cannot go deep. They just know it, but they don't know it in practice. They don't understand it in practice. And Japanese ambassador, he said this conversation, and he said that their public relationships, basically, let's say pseudoscience, or not know what they're doing. Well, not know what they are. They don't know what they are teaching, in short. And Feynman asked this ambassador, this question: how Japan managed to stand up and became such an important part for the world? How Japan did it? This is, by the way, a question everybody is intrigued with this question, especially the people that studied history, that paid attention towards it, and like everybody's, including myself, like very intriguing question. How? Just it's insane. What happened? Like how and what Japan's ambassador said was that there is this culture of like older generation want younger ones to be better, and they don't want younger generation to be peasants as they were. So they have realistic vision of themselves, and they don't want their young generation to follow their same path. And I was like, and he found this convincing, and I was like, At least this is how I understood it, and I also find it's very interesting, very powerful. Because usually you have this, because this is an unusual thing. This is very unusual. It's not, but again, it's not, I'm not convinced that this is 100% secret, like, how? It will stay a mystery. It's like there is no like for sure answer. Maybe or we can say that their indomitable spirit to improve, or like this Japanese rise is like the example of humanity's infinite potential to adapt and evolve. Adaptation, like it's not the strongest or the wisest that survives, but the one that is most adaptable to the change that survives. Not the strongest, not the wisest, but the one that's most adaptable to the changes that survives. And let's end this with this last quote. The first principle is that you must not fool yourself. And you are the easiest person to fool. You are the easiest person to fool. Let me repeat this thing, it's so important. The first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. The toughest question, sometimes mostly that what is toughest thing is to have the courage to ask the question, and then at the same time have the courage to receive the answer. This is the most important thing. Have the courage to ask the question, and at the same time have the courage to receive the answer. I know what it feels like to be afraid to ask the question, because you are afraid to receive the answer, so you are not ready. You are not ready. Well, in that case, because you are not ready, because you can't, because you are afraid, because you kind of know the answer and you are afraid of it. And assuming this is as well that you are the easiest person to fool, because this is kind of true. We are not as independent as we think we are. We are influenced by masses. The first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. Okay, I've said what I've said. I have spoken. Don't forget to comment down below what you think. What was the most interesting quote of this video for you? What you learned from this video as well, share it with me. Maybe there's things you don't disagree with, or you find some stuff, or maybe you may thought about Japan and how they managed to rise. And of course it says to do things with adaptation, and they adapted. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and see you